It was late in the afternoon on a beautiful spring Saturday, March 25th, 1911. 4:40 p.m. to be exact, nearly quitting time at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York's Greenwich Village, where 500 workers, mostly young Italian and Jewish women and girls, got ready to collect their pay and go home. Someone dropped a match or a cigarette, and within minutes, the factory, which occupied the top 3 floors of a 10-story building, became an inferno. Fire ladders, which reached only 6 floors, were useless. The fire escape collapsed under the weight of desperate workers trying to escape. One of the doors, it would be reported, was locked. Onlookers out for a weekend stroll in nearby Washington Square Park watched in horror as women leapt to their deaths from upper-story windows, some crashing through the firemen's nets, others hitting the sidewalk with a sickening thud. It's almost a mirror of what happened in 9/11.
In some ways, it was the horror of the fire jumping the way they did. And it was more intimate, though. You could look into their faces in their last moments, hear them hit the pavement that way,
In the days that followed, family members crowded into a makeshift morgue, trying, sometimes in vain, to identify those they lost among the charred remains. On that day, says researcher Michael Hirsch, all of New York was united in grief.
This fire really shook people up. The city was so guilt-stricken that maybe we were somehow responsible. And it led to all of these reforms that came afterward.
Out of the ashes of the Triangle Fire came new safety and fire regulations, child labor laws, and workmen's compensation. The outpouring of support for working people galvanized the fledgling American labor movement. Frances Perkins, who witnessed the tragedy that awful day and who would go on to become FDR's Secretary of Labor, called it the day the New Deal began. Every year since then, there have been tributes and remembrances, and this year is no exception.
This is the Union Monument to the Triangle victims.
But Michael Hirsch, co-producer of an HBO documentary on the Triangle Fire, worries that memories of that day and its repercussions are fading, like the names on the graves at Mount Zion Cemetery in Queens.
You used to be able to read this, but it's just melting away. And it's almost like a metaphor for the way we're forgetting these people and what they did for us.
For the last 5 years, Hirsch has made it his mission to find the names of all 146 people who died in the fire that day and their stories.
I just felt we owed it to them somehow. So they lost everything, and for them to lose their names as well, that just seemed wrong.
I always remember my dad telling us that he had an aunt who died in the fire, but that is all I remember.
Erica Lansner didn't even know her great-aunt's name until she got a call from Michael Hirsch.
And he said, could you possibly be related to Fanny Lansner, who died in the Triangle Fire? So this is a picture of Fanny from the newspaper article.
Erica Lansner discovered that her 21-year-old Aunt Fanny was a hero that day, saving the lives of many of her co-workers before jumping to her own death.
And just to think of a 21-year-old knowing she had minutes to live and chose to put others ahead of herself is just extraordinary. I feel actually quite proud, to be her descendant.
Essie Bernstein also died in the fire. She was a relative of factory owner Max Blank, who, along with his partner Isaac Harris, was accused of locking the factory door. Some say to keep out union organizers after a bitter strike. Their acquittal by a jury caused outrage then and still rankles some today.